What is going on, guys? My name is Kenji and welcome back to my channel. Hopefully this isn't the first time that you're watching one of my videos, but in case it is, I'm a third year medical student studying at King's College London, and in today's video I'm going to be talking to you guys about all the books that I read since the age of 16 up until now, which I really highly recommend that you read either before medical school or during medical school, or even as a doctor. Just get more of an idea of what medicine is like, what being a doctor is like, and the whole world of medicine from a perspective of the authors. So I've got loads of books over here, which I will be giving away today. I've got Do No Harm here, I've got The Man Who Mistook His Wife for a Hat, and I've also got Admissions, A Life in Brain Surgery. So I'll be giving these books away later on, and I'll also be doing a big giveaway with Blinkist, who very kindly sponsored the video. So I want to say a big thank you to Blinkist for sponsoring the video. I will be talking about the giveaway later on and telling you a bit more about how I use Blinkist in my life as well a bit later on. So I'm going to be telling you guys about 3 books in particular which I really enjoyed. I'll be giving you guys like a quick summary of those books, and I'll be listing all the other books I read during and before medical school. Oh, the reason why I'm dressed in like these really smart clothes in my lanyard is because straight after this video I need to run to the Royal College, get a train to the Royal College of General Practitioners for a training day. Every couple of weeks in medical school we have a training day at the RCGP to practice our clinical skills and to practice working with patient educators and patient actors. But anyways, that's beside the point. Let's get started with the books that I recommend. And the first book that I recommend is Trust Me, I'm a Junior Doctor by Adam Kane. I absolutely love this book. I actually read it last summer when I was on holiday in Marbella. I just like lounged by the pool and read this book every single day. And honestly, it was a hilarious book. Like, I found it very, very funny, but also very, very insightful. So Adam Kane, he was a doctor. He ended up actually quitting the NHS for reasons which he talks about in the book. But he was a doctor. He trained in the UK. He became a junior doctor and then specialised in obstetrics and gynecology, which is what I'm really interested in as well. And the reason I love this book is that it really gives you a first-hand perspective of what it's actually like to be a junior doctor. Starting on the wards from your first day after medical school, all the way up until your registrar training. He documents his life every single day with a pen and paper, like on a journal. He wrote down every single thing that he did on the wards. All of the like hilarious stories that you never really like hear about unless you're actually a doctor. All the funny stories like dealing with patients, all the crazy stories. He also talks about the dark side of medicine, the kind of side that deals with death, deals with all the struggling. He talks about what it's actually like to be a doctor. The fact that sometimes it is quite hard to juggle your social life, with your work life. He gives you a very, very detailed and really like humorous look into the life of a doctor. So that's the first book I recommend you guys read. Trust Me, I'm a Junior Doctor. And I really enjoyed it, especially because I want to be a junior doctor in like 2.5 years. So it gave me the perfect kind of first-hand perspective of the job that I'll be doing very soon, and hopefully in my specialty training as well. Alright, so the next book I'm recommending is Do No Harm by Henry Marsh, which I have over here. This book, honestly, one of my favorite books to do with medicine, like completely. This book is by Henry Marsh, and I actually met Henry Marsh last year. He gave a talk at one of the medical schools here in London. I think it was Queen Mary's Medical School. Really nice guy. And Henry Marsh is a leading neurosurgeon. He's an author, and he's also featured a number of TV programs like on the BBC. So go check him out. I think you can Google his name on YouTube and you will find the documentary that he featured on. Amazing. This book really gives you like an amazing insight into what it's like to be a neurosurgeon. He talks about the very many highs of medicine, the very many highs of saving lives, but also he talks about all the many lows of being a doctor, and the fact that although you end up saving so many lives, unfortunately a lot of lives are lost on your hands sometimes. He really kind of shows you that doctors are humans as well. Although like we do save many lives, as I said, sometimes you do have to deal with death, and the death that happens to patients isn't only something that the patients suffer from. The doctors also actually suffer when patients die as well. He also talks about how doctors make mistakes. Sometimes there's like a common misconception that doctors are gods and doctors are really smart and they will always save your life. But sometimes like that's not the reality of life, and it really gave me an understanding of what it truly means to be a doctor, of what it truly means to make mistakes and how to deal with them as well. And also like sometimes like no matter how hard you try, even if you're the best neurosurgeon in the world, sometimes it's not in the hands of the doctor, and sometimes it's out of the doctor's control. What I also really like about this book is that he talks about how hard it can sometimes be to make the decision to treat patients. Sometimes, honestly, treating patients isn't the best thing. Sometimes it might be better to allow them to die in peace without all this treatment. So he talks about how sometimes making these decisions on whether or not to operate on patients really isn't that black and white, and it really does bring up major ethical and deep life questions to decide whether or not to treat the patient. And going on from that, he also talks about how sometimes death isn't the worst outcome. Sometimes, as I said, it might be best to let the patient die at home with their family without the harshness of major surgery and major treatment as well. He also talks about how sometimes it's also really hard to find a balance between giving the patient hope and actually telling them the reality of the situation. Sometimes you really want to give the patient hope, but if you give them too much hope, you might be accused of being incompetent. And also, on the other hand, if you don't give the patient any hope at all, you end up giving them a life of hopelessness and just not believing that their disease will get better. And finally, one concept and idea that he really talks about that I really like actually is that all doctors and all surgeons have like a mini graveyard in their heart and in their head, which they come back to from time to time to mourn all the loss and all the deaths of their patients. So I know that sounds really cynical, but honestly, this is a really good book, and that's why I'm giving it away. So stay tuned until the end of the video to find out how. Alright, so I want to take a quick break to talk about Blinkist. When Blinkist reached out to me, I heard about it quite a lot, and I was honestly so happy that they reached out to me and wanted to sponsor this video. So the thing about being a medical student, and the thing about just living in today's age, is that sometimes it can be really hard to just sit down and just read a book and have a time to learn and constantly read books. Especially like in today's world where we have like social media, we have like our phones all the time, we have like a constant amount of information coming into us and coming into our ears and eyes every single day. It can be sometimes quite hard to just sit down and to find the time to read and to develop yourself and to focus on your own personal growth. So Blinkist is basically an app that has hundreds and thousands of non-fiction books, and what it does is that it takes all this information and all the important points from these non-fiction books and puts it together into around a 15-minute summary of the book with all the most important highlights, all the most important takeaways from the book. So you can actually take away all the important points of the book without sitting down and actually taking your time to read it. So I really like how all the summaries are very concise. They have over 8 million users worldwide and a huge library of books, including medical books like the ones I'm talking about. It has history books, it has self-help books, it has business books, it has a huge library which you get access to as well. So the way that I use Blinkist is I tend to read a lot of self-help books, of non-fiction books, particularly in my day, when I'm, when I have wasted time, when I'm waiting for a bus, or I'm on a bus, or if I'm on the underground. I like just sitting down and having 15 minutes to read all of these books and take all the learning points from it. But now all that time doesn't actually have to go to waste. I just pull out my phone straight away, I open the Blinkist app, and I read as much as I can in the amount of time that I have. Another way that I really like using Blinkist as well is if I want to get a feel of a book, I'll read it on Blinkist first, see what it's about, get all the main points from it. If I decide that actually I really want to read this book, I'll just buy it on my Kindle. One of the books that I've recently read on Blinkist, actually when I was in Bali and I was actually waiting for one of the boats to take me to another island, I sat down waiting for the boat and I was reading this book called Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk. I read the book, as I said, in less than 15 minutes. I really enjoyed it, so I actually decided to order it on the Kindle. And now, whenever I want to come back to all the main points from a book, I go straight to my Blinkist app. All my highlights are saved, and I have really easy access to all the main important points that were in the book. Alright, so giveaway. The first 100 people to click the link below will get a free week's unlimited access to Blinkist. You can go read all the books for a whole entire week. And if you decide that you actually want to stay with Blinkist, you'll get 25% off the actual price. The 7-day trial is completely free. If you want to cancel after 7 days, feel free to do so. And if you decide that actually I want to stay with Blinkist, you have the 25% off code, so feel free to use it as well. Alright, going back to the books. The third book that I want to recommend you guys is When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi. I don't know if I said his name right. Paul Kalanithi. Yeah, Paul Kalanithi. I don't have his book because I read it on my Kindle, but this was one of the probably the top 4 books I've ever read in my life. I really enjoyed this book. So Paul was a person who really enjoyed writing. He was also a leading neurosurgeon as well. And as a doctor, he worked very closely with life and death, as you can imagine. As a neurosurgeon, he was always on the operating table, dealing with the balance between life and death, and the meaning about what these two things mean. He takes us through the story of finding humanity, morality, and also the pursuit of what life actually means. He starts off by telling you, how hard it was to become a doctor, the long hours that he spent. I just realized I have a whiteboard here. My OCD is ringing. Yeah, he talks about the long hours he spent training to become a neurosurgeon, the amount of exhaustion that he went through, working 100-hour weeks. And he kind of talks about how that took him away from feeling empathy for the patients and actually sitting down with them and understanding what they're going through. And he talks about how he had to kind of relearn that process of empathy and treating the patient as a human being. He takes you through the success of his life. So he became a neuroscientist, a top neurosurgeon. He was winning all these awards. And when he was just about to complete his training, about to finish his residency, his life kind of took a turn for the worst. This is a bit of a spoiler, not really a spoiler, but I think it's important for you guys to know before you read it. So his life, took a turn for the worst, and he was diagnosed with cancer. So his life changed from kind of being a doctor and like a top neurosurgeon who saves people to being a patient. And that was actually really hard for him. And he talks about, you know, how he dealt with it, how he had to try and accept death, you know, how he had to decide whether or not to have a kid. He takes through his journey of him dying himself and what death meant to him and how he accepted it as part of his own life. But also how like it is very, very possible to live a life with integrity, and how he managed to deal with death himself when it's finally time for him to face it as a patient. So those are the 3 books I recommend you guys read. I also have a bunch of other books which I want to read out to you guys very quickly. I'd also really recommend you guys to read these 2 books. So Admissions, Life and Brain Surgery, The Man Who Took His Wife for a Hat. They're also really, really good books. I'd also like to recommend Being Mortal by Atul Gawande, Better, A Surgeon's Notes on Performance by Atul Gawande as well, Fragile Lives, A Heart Surgeon's Stories of Life and Death on the Operating Table by Stephen Westerby, Complications, A Surgeon's Notes on an Imperfect Science, The Checklist Manifesto, How to Get Things Right, and finally, Your Life in My Hands by Rachel Clark. So I'll put a link to all these in the description if you guys want to check it out. As I said, I think it's a really good idea to start reading before going to medical school or even during medical school as well. Books are kind of the best way that you can get like a first-hand perspective of what living that person's life actually was like. And I feel like I've been rambling on for a bit too long now, so I want to move on to talking to you guys about how you can win these books. For that, I want to take a quick coffee break. Alright, so the giveaway. Yes, I'm going to be giving these books away to 3 of you guys. I literally had it up on my shelf for so long, and there's not really much point in me having them, and I really want to spread the knowledge that I gained from these books with you guys. So all you have to do to win these books is first, make sure you like the video, make sure you're subscribed, leave a comment down below with your Instagram, and I'll randomly choose 3 different people to send these books to. And lastly, follow me on Instagram as well, because I'll be DMing whoever wins through Instagram. And unfortunately, this is only for people who live in the UK, because I don't have that type of student loan to pay for international shipping. I'm really, really sorry. But yeah, leave a comment down below, like and subscribe, follow me on Instagram, and around 2 or 3 weeks, I'll be choosing a winner and DMing you personally and sending you guys these books out. So that's pretty much it, guys. I really hope you've derived some value from this video. I really hope you enjoy these books. If you have, like, send me a message on Instagram and let me know what you thought of the book, or leave a comment down below. And if you have any books that you recommend me to read, I absolutely love reading on my Kindle. So please leave a comment down below with any kind of medical books, self-help books, life books, anything in general that you guys think would really help me out. Please leave a comment down below. So I need to run to my training day. Before heading off, I need to also like kind of go through all my examination skills again. So I'm gonna wrap things up here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.